Alright, we're going to be looking at some different strategies that we've been using in class to multiply fractions. Before we start with the strategies, I want us to look at a couple of vocabulary words that are going to be important for us to know. Alright, some very important vocabulary words that you need to know when you're talking about fractions are your numerator and your denominator. And you should already know, but as a reminder, the numerator in a fraction is the top number of your fraction. For example, here I have 3/4. So your numerator here would be your 3 because it's the top number of the fraction. Your denominator is the bottom number of your fraction. So if you look here, the digit 4 is my denominator because it is down on the bottom. Alright, let's look at some different strategies that we've been using in class to multiply fractions. The very first strategy that we've looked at is multiplying a fraction by a fraction. And what we're doing here is I have an example of 1/2 times 4/5. So when we're multiplying the fractions, we're going to multiply our numerators first, 1 and 4. And then we're going to multiply our denominators, 2 and 5. So if I multiply my numerators 1 times 4, my answer in the numerator is a 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 5 is 10. So if I'm looking here at multiplying my numerators and then multiplying my denominators, my answer here is 4/10. I can simplify that fraction, but I'm going to do that in just a minute. Now, when I'm multiplying a fraction by a whole number, it's a little bit different because I have to take my whole number here. I have 3 times 2/3. To turn my whole number into a fraction, I have to simply put that whole number over 1. And so now I have 3 over 1 times 2/3. I'm going to multiply again just like I did in the top example. I'm multiplying my numerators 3 times 2, and I'm going to multiply my denominators 1 times 3. When I do that, I get an answer of 6/3. Now, we know that 6/3 is an improper fraction. So I have to think to myself, how many times will 3 go into 6? Well, 3 will go into 6 2 whole times because I know that 2 times 3 equals 6. So 3 goes into 6 2 whole times. So I'm turning my improper fraction of 6/3 into a whole number of 2. Now we've done another strategy in class. We've done cross simplification. So let's take a look at that. Strategy number 2 is cross simplification. Now when I'm doing cross simplification, I need to be thinking of greatest common factors, GCF. Alright, now when I cross simplify, look at my multiplication symbol. Do you see how this is almost pointing to my 1 and my 5? I'm going to look here at 1 and 5, and I'm going to try to think, can I simplify these with the greatest common factor? And I can't do 1 and 5. So now I'm going to look at the other part of my multiplication fact here, and I'm looking at my 2 and my 4. Now, is there a number that I can divide into 2 and to 4? There is. I can divide a 2 into 2, and I can divide a 2 into 4. So let's do that. How many times will 2 go into 2? Well, it'll go into it 1 time. So I'm going to mark this number out, and now my new denominator is 1. How many times will 2 go into 4? Well, I know that 2 times 2 is 4. So 2 goes into 4 2 times. I'm going to mark that out. And now my new numerator here is a 2. Now I'm going to do like I usually do. After I cross simplify, just like I did here, I'm going to multiply my new numerators. 1 times 2 equals 2. That's my new numerator. Now I'm going to multiply 1 times 5 and I'm going to get the answer of 5. And that is how I do my cross simplification. You're looking at these numbers just like you have a giant multiplication sign. It's pointing to the 1 and 5, so I have to look at those. And then I have to look at the 2 and the 4, because this is my slanted part of my multiplication sign here. All right, we have worked on another strategy. We've worked on using a model to multiply fractions. So let's take a look at that. All right, I'm going to stick with this fraction 1/2 times 4/5. My first step is I'm going to draw a model, and I'm going to represent my first fraction, which is 1/2. So I draw a model, and I'm going to shade in half of the model. So you can see I've already done that. I've drawn a shape, and I divided it into half, and I shaded in 1/2. Now I'm going to look at my next fraction, and I have 4/5. So the second thing I need to do is use the same model and draw and shade in 4/5. So I'm going to do that. You watch. Now I have to divide this into fifths. So I'm going to make, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/5. So now I've cut it into 5 pieces. Now mine aren't exactly equal, but that's okay. Next thing I need to do is I've got to shade in 4/5. I want you to watch. I'm going to shade in 4/5. All right, so here's 1. Now I'm going to draw my lines the opposite way. So here's 1/5. Oh, now I've got to do 2/5. And 3/5. And now 4/5, which is what my fraction is. So my model is representing, I'm shading in, representing 4/5. All right, I'm not finished yet, because now what I have to do is I have to look at what is the fraction of the model that shows the common shading. All right, so I've got to look at the ones that have both my lines for 1/2 and my lines for 4/5. And if you look right here, these are my squares that have both of those. Now I've got to make a fraction. When I make a fraction, I know that my denominator is all of the pieces together. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10, so that's going to be my denominator. Now let's count and find out how many of these places did I shade for 1/2 and 4/5. So let's count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, because you can see in those they have both of the lines that are going this way and this way. So I have 4, and my answer is 4/10. And that's how I use a model to multiply fractions. Now there's one more thing that we've worked on, and let's take a look at scaling fractions. Okay? Now when I'm scaling fractions, what I'm looking for, I want to be thinking of these words: greater than, less than, and equal to. And I drew a number line right here. We're going to come back to that in just a minute. All right, I have some sample problems right here. I have 3 times 2/9. And I want to know, is my answer going to be greater than 3? Is it going to be less than 3 or equal to 3? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at this fraction right here. 2/9 is less than 1. So if I multiply 2/9 3 different times, I know that this fraction is less than 1, so I'm thinking that my answer is going to be less than 3. But let's look at the number line. All right. I have a number line right here. I have 1/9, 2/9, 3/9, 4/9, 5/9, 6/9, 7/9, 8/9, and we know that 9/9 equals 1. Now up here I put my 1/9, 1/9, and 1/9 because I'm going to take 2/9 and I'm going to show it 3 times. So here's my number line. I'm going to go 1/9, 2/9, and this is where I land. So there's 2/9 one time. Now I'm going to go 2/9 again because I have to multiply it times 3. So I'm going to go 1/9 and another 9. That's 2. So there's the second time I multiplied it. Now I'm going to go 1/9, 2/9 a third time. So now I've had 2/9 and I've multiplied it 3 times. Now look, see where my answer is? I can tell that I've got 1, 2, and 3 on my number line, and my answer is less than 3. This fraction was less than 1. My answer is less than 3. All right, now let's look at this next one. 5 times 1 and 1/4. I'm going to look at this right here because this is my mixed number that has a fraction. I know that 1 and 4/6 is greater than 1. So guess what? My answer is going to be greater than 5 because this is greater than 1. All right, look down at this one. I have 8 times 10/11. Now I'm going to look at my fraction. 10/11 is less than 1. So guess what? My answer is going to be less than 8. All right, do you see a pattern here? Look at my last one. I have 16 times 4/4, and I already know that 4/4 equals 1. So if I multiply 16 times 1, my answer is 16. My fraction equals 1, and so my answer is going to be equal to 16. I hope these strategies help you while you're multiplying fractions, and you're multiplying fractions times whole numbers also. Keep practicing. Use this video if you need it to help you. Stop the video, rewind it if you need to, and look at the problems again. And I hope this helps you.